Was goody gang. Man gains invisibility powers and starts clapping. What do you mean by that, yo? What do you mean they start clapping?
Noticed you existed. That's what happened to this dude after he woke up as a ghost. Now he has to solve what happened to him and try to communicate to others. We start off with a bunch of people at a dinner table outside a house. They're celebrating Nick. His mom is giving a speech and she mentions that Nick's dad is late. Nick stands and leaves the table. He goes to cut a cake which
A regular with the $50 donation, man. W mans, bro.
then walks into the house, sits on a stool, and points a pistol at his face. But just before he shoots, he wakes up. It was all a dream.
Everybody's
Now
some
he's at
W's, bro.
breakfast with
Everybody's
his
some
mom, and
W's.
That's a funny looking smiley breakfast for a grown man. He asks his mom if she has thought about
Bro,
seeing
that
others
is like an old school breakfast type, man. No problem, man. Thanks for the content, bro. I love you, bro. Thank
from
you.
London that he wants
Thank
to
you
go
for the donation,
and
man. I
doesn't
appreciate
look
it.
like she's in support of it. So he turns a smile on his breakfast into a frown. How cute. And now he's on his way to school on his
W's,
bicycle.
man, W's.
At school, we see him do a business exchange. He did homework for some guy. After handing the homework to the guy,
Oh, he was the nerd of the group, bro. That's literally the worst
sneaks
part
up
of the
on
group
him,
to be in.
asking if he'd be coming for a party.
Yo, who is he with
He
though?
says he can't because he'll be busy. Next, we see two guys and a girl trying to get some money from this guy. Apparently, he owes them.
Among Us
The
we
leader
will.
of the gang, Annie, threatens him with a knife, but she doesn't really do anything except scratch him on the finger. Now we're in Nick's class and a guy is reading his homework to the class. The teacher asks Nick to top that. He goes to the front of the class, sits on the table, and reads his own work. It's good poetry, but his classmates seem bored out of their minds. So once the bell goes, they all pack their bags and leave. The students are now in the cafeteria. The guy who was scratched is Nick's best friend, Pete. Nick is telling Pete he needs to stand up for himself and not let people push him around. Pete says he can't, so Nick goes to fight for his friend. He goes and pays off Pete's debt and whispers in Annie's ear.
Dang. Yo, a regular just became my first channel member of the chat. Yo, W.A. regular. W man. Everybody's on W's right now, bro. W, thank you so much, bro. W man's, bro. Dead ass.
You are so broken. Dude really thought he was going to get
Dude,
away
thank
with
you
that,
so
but
much,
Annie
a regular.
only
You're
gave
my
him a few
first channel
seconds,
member
then
ever
attacked him,
on this
landing
channel.
some punches on his face. Now two of them are waiting to see the principal and are having a little heart-to-heart. She tells him he's not better than her because he sells essays. He admits that he's a hypocrite, then the principal comes and sends Annie home. Then he turns to Nick and tells him to stop wasting his time on lost souls like Annie Newton. She has no future.
Dang.
You do. Don't let us down, he says. And Nick's only reply is, can I leave now? Then we see Annie back home. Her stepmother hasn't made her brother dinner, so she confronts her about it. This causes an argument between her.
Bro, why is she so close to him like that? Hey, regular, get on Discord and add me in chat. I will give you roles to where you can join private calls and stuff. I'm gonna give you perms. I'm gonna give you roles. I got you.
Dad and stepmom, but Annie just goes upstairs and makes a sandwich for her brother, Victor.
Bro, who
Victor
cooks a
asks her if she'll
sandwich
be
like
going out
that?
tonight, and she says yes. You can see the boy's mood change. Over at Nick's house, we see Pete arrive and tease him about getting beat up by a girl. Relatable. Pete now asks Nick about that same party, and Nick says he won't even be around by tomorrow. He'll be in London for the writer's program. His mom doesn't even know, but he's going anyway. According to him, she's always trying to micromanage him and be on top of everything, but he's not going to let her have this one. Now we see Annie get in a car with her boyfriend, Marcus, and they're off to rob a jewelry store.
Bro, what? Why are you robbing a store like this though? She just licked the knife. I know it, which is crazy.
Annie smashes the glass, grabs some jewelry, runs back to the Mercedes which Marcus just stole, and he drives off. The next morning, Annie gets ready for school and is leaving with the bag. Marcus asks her to leave the bag with him, but she refuses and says he'll do nothing about it. But he actually does something. He takes his phone and puts a call through to the police.
Bro, L Mans, bro. You just robbed a store and now you snitching, bro. You're literally an accessory to a crime.
Oh, what a rat. At school, we see Annie take the
Yeah.
bag and put it in her locker. When she closes her locker, she sees Pete giving her a stare down. A few minutes later, the cops
Bro
show
is a
up,
snitch.
open her locker, find the jewelry in the bag, and take her away. She calls
Wow.
Marcus from the station and gives him the update. He asks if she has any idea how they found out, and she says she does, and she'll take care of it. Do you really? Anyway, after the call, she leaves the station
That
ready to
is
exert
wild.
revenge on the person she's so sure ratted her out to the cops. Now we see Pete saying goodbye to Nick. They hug and Nick goes home where his mom has found out about his ticket to London. Apparently, the airline called to say that the time of his flight has been changed. She confronts him about it. He apologizes and said he was trying to talk to her about it. But she notes that he has had the ticket for weeks, so he was going to go no matter what she said. But she's shocked he was just going to leave without saying a word. She says she feels like she has been living with a stranger. Nick
That's crazy coming from your mom, though. Imagine you live in your house and your mom's like, I don't know you. Who are you? It's different, man. Bro, I ain't gonna lie to you. I appreciate the support in the stream, man, chat. Hey, regular, bro, coming to get a game member and donating $50 to the stream, man. Deadass, I love you, bro. I love you. I love you, bro.
Nick is now in his room getting
So
ready to
happy.
leave. He takes a watch and puts it in his pocket. Then we see Pete walking pretty briskly, and boom, some guy comes and punches him from nowhere. It's Annie's guys. They take him to Annie. She thinks it's him who ratted her out, so she's beating him up, trying to get him to admit to something he didn't do. The torture is too much for him to bear, so he says he'll tell her who did it. Boy, who are you about to implicate now? The answer is his best friend, Nick. Well, you just have to understand his rationale. It's not like he's a snake or anything. He just expected that Nick would have left the country by now, and Annie would not have anybody to beat up. But unfortunately for everyone, Nick's flight got delayed, so he's at the party asking his girl if she wants to go to London. While they hang out, he throws her the ticket and tells her to have a good time. It would appear that his mom's little speech changed his mind and he no longer wants to go. And you know that isn't good news for anybody. He's walking back home when a car starts chasing him and then pushes him to a ditch. It's Annie.
Bro, he just got ran over by a car, which is crazy.
Boys, they're beating him up now. Pete comes out of
They
the car,
beating
tries
him
to
up
explain
now?
his rationale, but nobody's listening to him. Annie now picks Nick up and asks him, who's broken now? And he still answers, you are. We all love a guy with some balls, don't we? Okay, that may have come out wrong. Anyway,
Bro, this man right here is a savage, bro. Even though my man's getting beat up like that, he like, hey, run them ones. I don't care. Run them ones with me. That's just how it is.
Nick's balls earn him a few more punches and a hard kick to the face. That kick kills him, so they go and dump his body in a hole.
What?
During the process, Nick's watch falls, but nobody notices
No,
this.
he
I could forgive
died?
Pete before, but not now. How would you allow yourself to be part of that?
He
He's your best friend
died?
for crying out loud. Anyway, Annie goes home and confesses to Marcus.
That is
She tells him
sad,
she
bro.
clapped the guy who sold her out, and you can see the shock on Marcus's face because he knows for a fact that that was not the person who sold her out. He's now
That's
asking her why
tough.
she came to him. You know I'm on parole, Annie. Why'd you come here? He asks and sends her away. She feels betrayed. Betrayed? Wait till you find out that he's the one who sold you out. She smashes some stuff
Dang, so he don't even know that she knows that it's him, which is crazy. I'm pretty sure if she knew that was him, she would have killed him.
in his workshop, gives him an ironic kiss, and leaves. Then early the next morning, we see her burning her clothes from last night. You won't believe what we see next. Nick. He walks out of the woods looking unscathed. So clean
What?
and fresh. He walks to school, goes and sits in class, but here's the thing. No one can see him. He's, how do you say it? Invisible. Relatable. So nobody knows he's in class, even though he's
Let's be real. Man, if you was invisible and no one can see you, what would you do? Be honest. Yo, chat, be honest. Like, it could be the craziest stuff ever. Let me know.
sitting right there and can hear everything they're saying. They use that opportunity to get a few things off their chest about him, even his girl. She calls him pretentious and says he's always trying to make himself feel important. You can't trust these girls, man. But then again,
You just said kissing's art, bro. You gotta go. You gotta go. Clap some cheeks is crazy.
his best friend also betrayed him, so actually, don't trust anybody, bro. At first, he thinks they're only messing around with him, but then he takes a book, throws it at his shelf. The book never even leaves the table. He then goes to the telephone in the principal's office to call his mom. He's right in his principal's face, but the principal can't see him. This guy must be John Cena. Then he shouts out to his mom. He can hear her talking to the detectives about him, but she can't hear him. He's running home now. On his way, he clatters.
Is this
into
like
someone in the
is this
school
how it
hallway.
is? Is this how it is to be like is this what it's like to be like dead and you talk to someone and they're like, oh, I can't hear you?
Hit by a car, run over by a truck, but nothing really happens in real life. He gets home and sees detectives all around his house doing everything to find him. He tries to put his mother out of her misery by telling her he's dead, but of course she can't hear him. Now he's just wandering the streets. Man, if I found out I was invisible, I would be doing a lot more than just walking the streets.
What would you be doing, yo? I ain't gonna lie to you. Yo, VH with the $50 donation. Yo, thank y'all so much. VH, if you want to become a member, listen, bro. If y'all want to become a member, join my Discord, and I will give you perms to join my private calls and to play games with me, and I will give you benefits in the chat.
Anyway, the detectives
Are you spying on a gym crush? It's crazy.
Their investigation. They spoke to the principal who told
How you
them
doing,
they were
Shauna?
in a fight with Annie, so they head to Annie's house. Apparently, Brian knew Annie when she was little because her dad used to be a cop. They're up on the roof asking Annie what she was doing last night, and Nick is there to supervise her lies. But he also finds out that Annie clapped him because she thought he ratted her out. He throws her off the roof, but you know, that just doesn't work. The detectives take a search party out to the woods where Nick's body was dumped, and Annie calls Pete and tells him to be there. Nick hears that and gets visibly sick. He's in his room now and he can see his mom come in and go through his stuff. She's reading a poem he wrote and he's reading along with her. His pet bird joins him in invisible paradise. He holds it in his hands and after some seconds, it disappears. That's a revelation for him. He says, "I'm alive," and he runs straight to where his body was dumped.
Oh, but he's alive? Wait, so is this body in two different places? In my Discord server? Yeah, I'm sick. I'm sick.
dumped. He's trying to get the search party to find him, but he's not having much luck with the
Thank y'all
humans.
for the donation, man. I love y'all, bro.
Seemed like he could see Nick,
DH,
but he
thank
turned
y'all,
away
man.
at the last second. The dog helped find Nick's watch, though. Now Pete is reporting to Annie and the rest of the gang. He feels they'll soon be found out, so he says he'll go to report to the police. Annie tells him if he reports, he goes to jail too. Meanwhile, Nick is there listening to everything. Annie now sneaks back into her house and she's trying to pack up her stuff and run away. Victor wakes up and asks if she's going to go away and never come back like mom. Oof, that's pretty heartbreaking. Annie's crying now. She might be stone cold, but she's soft when it comes to this boy. She tells Victor to never be like her. Excellent advice. Her dad walks into the room and tells her,
bro, listen, I'll take my mans with me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not leaving him there by himself.
And she says, cool. But if anything happens to her younger brother, she'd be back and she'd clap him. She leaves the house and Nick does one of his monologues again.
She a little gangster.
Family dynamic doesn't excuse anything she has done. The search in the woods intensifies. We can see choppers and ambulances now. A professional says if Nick is alive out there, he has 2-3 days tops. Now we get a visual of Nick's body, and we see his fingers twitch. He's really alive.
Oh, he alive.
To have a word with Marcus. He asks him if he was with Annie on Tuesday night, and of course he says yes. He then asks him if he was with her the night before, when she robbed the jewelry store, and he said no.
Bro is capping. He was literally there. On top of that, he snitched. Just think about this. Everything could have been avoided if he didn't snitch, respectfully. This is why you don't trust certain people, bro. You gotta have bros that's like this. Can't trust everybody, bro. You cannot trust everybody because they will stab you in the back, respectfully. Tell me that's not a W or L right now in chat. W or L.
He knows nothing about that. Of course, Brian knows Marcus has been on parole for 8 months, but he doesn't stress that too much. He just drops his card and tells Marcus to call him if he sees Annie, because he wants to talk to her about a missing person at her school. Finally, Brian makes sure he lets Marcus know that he knows the exact brand of car that got stolen that same night the jewelry store was robbed. Nick is now telling his mom how he knows this won't change a thing for her, because she always has everything under control. He's shouting at her, shaking her, scattering everything on her table, even throwing a chair through the window. But of course, none of that actually happens. A few moments later, his mom breaks down and starts crying. She's really weeping and calling out Nick's name. Pete is taking a walk under the rain when Marcus comes from nowhere, grabs him, and points a gun at his chest. Marcus tells Pete that he's being followed by the police, and he actually is. He takes him into the woods and Pete points to him where the body was dumped. The next day, Marcus tries to trick Annie to come to a location so he can clap her, but she suspects something.
Wait, do what? Clap who? Why, listen, can you do say a different word than clapping, bro? Let's be honest. He always saying clapping this, clapping that. Just say, hey, she finna get put down. That's how it is.
So she calls Pete and tells him to go instead. Pete goes and is followed by Detective Kate, after Nick did his best to get her to wake up and look. Pete is now at the bridge with the two guys while Annie is watching from a distance, but then Marcus comes from behind her and points a gun at her back. He takes her to the bridge where the rest of the guys are and tells Pete to go home. He runs home. You can see how thankful he was that he was asked to go. Marcus says they have to move quickly because there's a tail on Pete, and he's right, but it's too late now. The cops are already here. Annie then grabs a shotgun from Marcus and is pointing it at the cops, but they're surrounded now. But Annie is one hell of a survivor. She manages to climb out and escape. Peter Parker would be extremely proud.
Hey, she is Spider Chick. Spider Chick.
Hey, Nick screams, "They'll catch you, Annie," and it seems like she heard him, because she turns around and yells something. So Nick goes, "She heard me." She goes to a club and sells a ring which belonged to Marcus to some guy. After he pays her, she decides to stay back and do a little dancing. She takes off her hoodie and beanie, and is now doing the signature white woman dance while Nick is just watching her. The next day, she goes to her mother's grave, and she says she's sorry. Then Nick starts talking about how sometimes he wishes his mom died, instead of his dad, because of how much pressure she puts on him. He now reaches out to Annie and touches her shoulder. He says he knows she can hear him, so he tells her just to tell them where his body is, but she just stands up and leaves. He follows her. She breaks into the school at night and puts some money in an envelope for Victor, and puts it in her locker. Nick is there to tell her he's dying, and he doesn't have much time left, and ironically, she's the only one who can save his life. You can tell she can hear his voice in her head, so he screams her name and she turns around, but she can't see anybody. She's miserable now. She goes to take a shower, and being a good boy, Nick makes sure not to look. Meanwhile, Nick, the one in the hole.
Bro, listen, let's be real. If you was invisible, right, and you see your crush taking a shower, would you go watch her take a shower, bro? Let's be real. I want to see where y'all minds at though. I want to see where it's at. If you had a girl, right, a girl that you liked so much, and you was invisible, would you follow her around? Would you follow her when she take a shower? Let's be honest. I just want to know. I just want to know.
That is, opened his
Let's go
eyes
ahead,
at this
Nick.
point. Annie is sleeping now
Bro,
in
you
the
so
basketball
cool, bro.
court, and Nick is right beside her, running his hands through her
No.
body and calling out her name. He oversleeps and is woken up by the basketball team that comes in for practice. How are you a ghost and oversleeping? Or sleeping at all, for that matter? Anyway, now we see
Bro is
Annie
watching
Nick's
her while
house.
she
He's going
sleeps.
through his old photos and getting nostalgic. Do not tell me these two are falling in love, because even Nick is out here smiling while his body is decaying in that hole.
Bro is literally invisible. He finna clap some girl's cheeks while he's invisible. Imagine getting cheeks clapped invisible. How would that be like?
Thankfully, Nick's mom comes in and kills whatever romance
Hey,
was
regular,
brewing,
you don't think
and
so,
he runs
regular?
out of the house and straight into the woods to where they dump Nick's body. And Viola, the body isn't there. Nick is telling Annie that someone was there to move his body, and he's asking her to think. She sees the substances that she found with Pete days back, and that tells her that Pete was here. So she goes after Pete at school. Pete is now telling her that Nick didn't even rat her out in the first place. He then confesses that he and Marcus moved the body. So she goes after Marcus.
Save Goku?
She ambushes him in his car, just outside a police station. Then she takes him to a precipice and tells him to go on his knees. Role reversal moment.
Oh,
Then she points a gun
nah.
at him. Meanwhile, Pete is trying to self-delete. Nick is begging him not to do it, but Pete can't even hear a thing. But here's the beautiful thing. While Pete is in that transition zone where he's not dead yet, but not fully alive, he sees Nick. They can see and talk to each other. Nick is now asking Pete where he moved the body to at the same time Annie is asking Marcus the same question. They both answer about the same time. After they do, Pete's parents rush into his room and find him in the state he's in, and Annie just leaves.
Wait, so he's not alive. He's not dead. He's just in a paralysis to where he can move around and stuff. That's kind of crazy because there is a thing in real life. It's called lucid dreaming, and it's like when you're sleeping, you're like in the middle of sleeping and being awake, so you can like move around in your mind, move around in your room. It's weird. I've had that a few times.
Marcus and turns around to go find Nick, but not clapping him turns out to be not a very good idea. Because
Okay,
Marcus stands
stop
up and
saying
shoots
clapping,
her.
bro.
She doesn't die though. She has enough in her to shoot him and stand up and call Detective Bryant. She tells him where Nick is and tells him she left something for her brother in
And
her
her break
locker,
goes good.
and he should make sure Victor gets it. The cops rush off to the dam where Nick's body is, but of course, Nick gets there before them. He finds his body and he's now touching himself. Oh no, not in that way. He's with his body
Wait,
now.
what are these words? This narrator, his wordings is so sus. This man's touching himself. This man's doing this to himself. I'm finna go over there and clap her cheeks, bro. What are these wordings?
But you know, he can't save himself. The dam gates open and Nick is drowning. Kate calls for the gates to be closed and now the cops are looking for Nick. Brian finds him and they all rush there. Indeed, he's alive. They rush him into the ambulance and Annie's there watching from a very far distance. She's still bleeding. She gets into her car and sort of blacks out for some time. She's woken up later in the evening by a cop who asks her to come down from the car, but she doesn't and just drives away instead.
Oh, nah,
As
some GTA
expected,
stuff
they
right
start
there.
chasing her. At the hospital, Nick's mom is watching as the doctors try to save her son. The police finally surround Annie and they all have guns pointed at her, but she hears Nick's voice in her head saying, "I need you, Annie. I need you." And that was all the fuel she needed. She steps
nah,
on the
she finna
accelerator
go
and drives
crazy.
through the police blockade. She gets to some place, dumps the car, and completes her journey on foot.
Said
Where does she go?
Goku?
The hospital, of course. Nick directs her to where his body is being operated
Yeah,
on.
bless.
She gets there,
Yeah,
and Nick's mom
uh,
goes, "You have
crazy.
some nerve," the moment she sees her. Nick tries to play peacemaker, but, you know, Mama can't hear you. So Annie has to do it all on her own. She says she just has to talk to Nick, but Nick's mom lands a slap on her face. Annie then tells her that Nick is here.
So her mama think that she's crazy because she's talking about Nick, but Nick is standing behind her invisible. So her mom thinks that she disrespecting her dad's son, saying that she needs to talk to him. It's kind of crazy, but I kind of understand what they
She can
talking
feel
about.
him and hear him, that she knows what he wants. Of course, she doesn't believe her. So on Nick's directive, Annie tells Nick's mom about that time she was in his room reading his poems, and how he was with her then. She now
memories.
asks Annie what she wants, and Annie says she just needs to see Nick. She can help him, but his mom says no. Annie hands her her gun, and says she knows she can bring him back. She finally lets her go in. Annie is now running her fingers through Nick's body.
Bro, why are you doing all this on a dead man's body? I know you might like him and everything, but listen, my man's is dead. There's no feeling, so why would you even do that? Like, you know, it's like, that's crazy.
She takes off her necklace, which once belonged to her mom, and puts it in his hand while she joins him on the bed and snuggles with him.
Yo, you snuggling with a dead body?
That the invisible Nick disappears, and the real Nick wakes up and calls Annie's name. Annie says she wanted to do one good thing, and Nick tells her she did. She saved him. Then Annie taps out. Then we see Victor playing with
Taps
the toy
out?
plane, and
What do
Nick
you
shows
mean
up
by
and
that,
has a
yo?
conversation with him. Victor says his sister died, and Nick says they should send her a message. Victor's message is simple.
Let me know in the comment section. If you was invisible, what would you do? I feel like some of y'all was capping earlier, talking about some of y'all wouldn't go watch a girl, you know what I'm saying? Follow a girl around when y'all invisible. I feel like some of y'all were capping.